for the millions of families gathered around their wireless sets, and for their loved ones still serving far from home. It was the message a battle-weary world had long prayed for. "The war is over," declared my grandfather, King George VI, in his address to the nation and Commonwealth on VJ Day 80 years ago today. 4 short words after 6 long years of bloodshed, fear, and suffering. Seldom can a simple message have resonated with such a potent mix of relief, celebration, and sorrow for those who never lived to see the glow of freedom's new dawn. On this day of profound remembrance, I speak to you in that same spirit of commemoration and celebration as we honor anew all those whose service and sacrifice saw the forces of liberty prevail. While that final victory in the Pacific was achieved under the strategic command of our steadfast American allies, the war in Southeast Asia had reached its climax under the leadership of my great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten, from whom I learned so much about the particular horrors and heroism witnessed in those furthest fields of combat. The forces aligned under him comprised over 1 million men and women, drawn from many different countries, religions, and communities, but united by a common purpose and indomitable spirit. 29 Victoria Crosses bear eloquent testimony to their valor, but I know full well of the toll it took on so many, measured not only in gravestones, but in the mental and physical scars of those who survived. Despite the unyielding support of their devoted battlefield commander, General William Slim, the forces on the ground sometimes considered themselves the forgotten army. But as patron of the now Burma Star Memorial Fund, and having attended one of the great Burma Star reunions at the Albert Hall with Lord Mountbatten, when the hall was filled with thousands of bemedalled veterans, it has been my privilege to reassure the remaining veterans that they and their fallen comrades shall never be forgotten. Nor are they alone in our thoughts today, for high above those monsoon-lashed jungles, Allied pilots displayed their own fearless bravery, flying fighters, bombers, and transport aircraft into enemy fire and nature's fury. We recall, too, the prisoners of war who endured years of brutal captivity, the starvation, disease, and cruelty that tested the very limits of human endurance. Innocent civilian populations of occupied territories faced grievous hardships too. Their experience reminds us that war's true cost extends beyond battlefields, touching every aspect of life. A tragedy all too vividly demonstrated by conflicts around the world today. On this landmark anniversary, we should also pause to acknowledge that in the war's final act, an immense price was paid by the citizens of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a price we pray no nation need ever pay again. But in recalling so much suffering, we must not lose sight of how great was the cause and how sweet the victory. For those heroes of VJ Day gave us more than freedom. They left us the example of how it can and must be protected. Countries and communities that had never before fought together learned to coordinate their efforts across vast distances, faiths, and cultural divides. Together they proved that in times of war and in times of peace, the greatest weapons of all are not the arms you bear, but the arms you link. That remains for our times. So, to the families of all those who served, and to that sadly dwindling band of veterans among us still, please know that the courage and camaraderie displayed in humanity's darkest hour is a flame that shall blaze for eternity, a beacon that honors our past and guides our future. Let us therefore pledge to be vigilant guardians of the values they bequeathed to us. And let us, above all, remember the epitaph in the Commonwealth War Graves Cemetery on the battlefield of Kohima. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone.
Hi, this is Frankie from Twizzletops, the nursery unit that meets here at Wat Tyler Park. You've had a look around the display, and for a number of weeks now you've been seeing it being put together.
It's been building and building over the last few weeks, and the momentum has really built as well, and we've been working really closely with our communities, and our families and our children have shown a massive interest, and to have the opportunity to share this wonderful space with you guys at Basildon Heritage, and obviously with the Forget Never team as well. It's been an amazing opportunity to bridge the gap of learning and history for our children, to be able to really inflow into your world really, and get to understand the history behind why we're celebrating such amazing milestones and the importance behind the history.
Lovely.
Thank you so much. Love that. And this one?
Right, so we have Jeff here now, who had a relative who was involved in the Far East campaign.
Father-in-law was.
Father-in-law, yeah, okay. Do you know much about him at all?
No, it was a Batman, and unfortunately they landed in Singapore in 1942, and he was captured straight away and spent the whole war in the prisoner of war camps.
That's tough.
Didn't have a lot of luck.
Was he in one camp or did he move about?
He moved about. I know he was in Changi, and another one, and that was on the Burma Railway.
On the Burma Railway, yeah.
Through,
So he worked on the Burma Railway for 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you ever meet him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did. So, you heard some of his stories, yeah?
What he would talk about, he didn't really talk about a lot. I think the way you listened to him, it was because of the beatings you got if you done anything.
Yeah. A lot of them didn't and wouldn't speak for years. So, yeah, it must have been quite horrific for them. So,
I mean, this is unreal because it's a lot of, I'm ex-forces myself anyway, but to see this open, to get some of the youngsters in here, because they just don't know about anything like that.
We have had a few in, but we need some more. So, perhaps over the weekend.
Right then, right.
Okay, so what do you think of the display in itself?
It's good.
It's good, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Right.
You've covered more or less a lot of stuff,
Yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you very much, Jeff.
You're welcome.
And enjoy the rest of the exhibition.
Oh,
okay, everyone, here we have an old stager, Fred. I've interviewed him before on VE Day. But,
this is
Fred.
the jungle hat from the 50s. And the white band, it's changed every operation you're on, just so that perhaps deep in the jungle you've got the SAS, if you've got the wrong colour hat, you won't survive.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this very special evening. Nice of you to make it up the hill. I will have one little warning for you all. On the way out, it might very well be a lot darker than it is now. So if you need, as you've noticed, the ground is very uneven, especially up the top here. If you need any assistance, we have lots of people with torches who can assist you down if you need any help. Just hang around and we'll help you down. Please take care. Yeah. Right, so this evening is a very special evening for all of us. It's a night that commemorates the end of World War II. Many people thought in 1945, as well as 80 years later, that the war finished with VE Day. But, as we all know, there were still people fighting in the Far East when the war in Europe had finished. We know that many of these people were prisoners of war in Japanese prisoner of war camps, serving on ships or in the RAF, or still fighting with groups of people in the locality during that three months difference. Many of them, when they were released, when they were saved and released from the prisoner of war camps, still took up to 2 or 3 years to get home. This is why they called themselves at the time the Forgotten Army. And as you probably noticed on the television today, there were a lot of ceremonies reminding people that they were never forgotten and they haven't been still. So 80 years ago, we decided at the beginning of the year that we needed to commemorate that event here in Basildon, because we had 35 people remembered in our exhibition in the Green Centre, which you can go to tomorrow or Sunday or Monday and have a look at the exhibition. We had over 100 people in there today, which was very good, but we have the stories of 35 people who were actually fighting and dying in the Far East, and we need to remember them. They should be remembered. This organisation, the exhibition and this beacon lighting is organised by the Forget Never project of Basildon. The Forget Never project is a combined effort between Basildon Heritage Group and Basildon Twinning Association, working together as we have done since 2014. And we were determined that we should not forget. So hence the ceremony tonight. I'm very proud to say that we have the Mayor of Basildon, Councillor Alan Davis, who has graced us with his presence, and will be starting off the actual commemorations here today.
80 years ago, the Second World War came to its end following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan's surrender marked the close of the most devastating conflict the world had ever known. After 6 years of global suffering and sacrifice, peace was finally restored. On the 15th of August 1945, as the surrender was announced, King George VI addressed the nation. His words still resonate today, and here are his words. 3 months ago, peace returned to Europe, but world peace had not returned as far as Asia was concerned. Now, men and women in every country can start rebuilding structures, towns and cities, and even relationships. A sense of deliverance is overpowering, and thought now has to be given to those who have lost loved ones, family members, and friends. They fought in brotherhood, and through their courage and endurance they conquered. We now have to play our story in the shattered fabric of civilization. You and your children can now look forward to the future, not with fear, but with hopes of a surer happiness for all. This year in Basildon, as we mark the 80th anniversary of VJ Day, we also pay tribute to 2 forgotten Scottish pipers. During the desperate retreat from Malaya in January 1942, they played as their comrades crossed the Johor Causeway under enemy fire. In that darkest hour, their music gave courage, yet their bravery was never formally recognised. We will remember them. Tonight, we invite everyone to light a candle at home or share a photo on social media and create a wave of light and remembrance that will stretch across the UK and beyond. By doing so, Basildon stands alongside councils, landmarks and communities nationwide in saying loud and clear, we have not forgotten you. This is more than a tribute to the past. It is a powerful act of unity, respect and gratitude that will echo through generations. May the courage, sacrifice and hope of those who came before us continue to guide our path toward a more peaceful and just world. Thank you.
We now have Richard Rackham, who's the district coordinator for Rotary clubs in the area.
The 15th of August 1945 became a day of unbelievable rejoicing across the world. The most unbelievable conflict the world had ever seen was finally at an end. It was the start of reflection and the beginning of having to rebuild for the future. World War II had brought about the understanding that any future conflict will be even more disastrous. The age of nuclear conflict was now a frightening prospect and therefore an opportunity to make nations think far more deeply before wanting to embark on another journey, such as the one now finally concluded. 80 years ago, it was time to celebrate the fact that countries of the British Empire and Commonwealth came together as one body to save humanity, but as one body to remember the sacrifice made by so many who laid down their lives for freedom.
We'd now like to introduce you to Frank Mallet, who is a Pitsea resident whose father actually landed on D-Day 1944 and has spoken to us before. Has some lovely stories. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Good evening. My father, Stan, fought in Europe during World War II. He took some 30 years before talking to me about his time in the war. He felt he was there as a witness as he experienced the horror of D-Day on Omaha Beach, and then the celebrations during the liberation of Paris, and then the relief of VE Day when he was in Germany. With so much personal involvement in these events, Dad never actually spoke of VJ Day itself. I guess again, part of the forgotten. I guess this was overshadowed in his memory by those etched in his mind previously. His service record shows that he was personally employed helping to dismantle Luftwaffe radar units during the period of August 1945, 80 years ago today. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Ian Hampshire is a local school teacher who had a relative, a great uncle, I believe, who was actually a prisoner of war in Japan.
Thanks, Bob. As Bob said, I work for the Leigh Chapel Multi-Academy Trust, and for the past 10 years, along with Bob and the Forget Never project, we've taken school children to war sites in France and in Germany. But here today, I'm here just briefly to talk about a relative of mine, my great uncle, who was a prisoner of war in Japan. So his name was Albert Winchester. He was in the British Army when Singapore fell in 1942. And he was one of the 80,000 people who then were subsequently became prisoner of war and were sent to work on the Burma Railway. Now, with the help of Bob and I think Norman and Ray, we pieced together some of the information that was missing in his time as a prisoner of war. There was a period of about 17 months where my family sort of didn't know anything about what had happened. And they've managed to search through documents to see what actually he had to endure during his time in, I think it was the Changi, notorious Changi prisoner of war camp. Like the previous gentleman said, he was a person who years later didn't talk about his experiences, but he suffered immensely from his time as a prisoner of war. Like many in Japan, he was treated barbarically by the Japanese, and he subsequently was emerged from the camps weighing less than 6 stone. So I just want to say thank you to the Basildon Heritage Centre for their support in researching him, and to Bob and to everyone involved in it, and all of you today, thank you for coming to remember those who fought and those who were left and those who survived the war in Japan. Thanks.
We now have a Basildon pupil who has been on some of the tours with us, actually playing football mainly. But this is Eric, and he's just going to say something on behalf of the young people of the borough.
Let us build a world free from hatred and division. This day may each one of us willingly pledge ourselves to such a noble statement.
And now the two of them are going to read a citation that actually comes from a Basildon memorial on the Somme in France. The words are beautiful, although a different time, but the words still resonate with us today.
Okay, in remembrance of all those who have suffered in conflict and of those who are suffering still, may we live our lives today with more compassion and kindness, understanding and forgiveness, reconciliation and unity. Let us now, in their honour, wage peace.
We're now very privileged to welcome Reverend David from St Chad's Church in Vange.
If you're able to, please let's bow our heads as we pray. God our Father, in the dying and rising of your Son Jesus Christ, you have brought life and salvation out of cruelty and death, and in sorrow for all that hinders the coming of your kingdom of peace. Give us wisdom to learn from the bitter memories of war and hearts that long for the unity of all nations. God of sadness and celebration, you share our pain and loss, as well as the joy of reunion. We remember with gratitude the mixed emotions of VE and VJ Day in people's hearts and on the streets. Comfort those who still grieve and challenge us who live on to value what was won and to build on the legacy of lives sacrificed for your name's sake. And together we say, Amen.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Ken Porter, who's the chairman of Basildon Heritage Group.
Hey! Speak up.
Can you hear me okay? Yes, no? Okay. It's just a quick statement to read out. If anybody is aware of Mellon Gate out in Belgium, ever since the end of the First World War, this is read out at the end of their service every single night. And I will say, swear I'm bragging a little bit, I had the opportunity on one of our Forget Never programs out there to actually read it. If I can see it, that is. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
And now I welcome Steve Hurley, who's going to play the bugle for us.
when you go home, tell them of this, or tell them of us, and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today.
And now the time is right for lighting the Basildon beacon one more time. Calling on Councillor Alan Davis, the Mayor of Basildon, to do us the honours. Thank you, Councillor Davis, and thank you very much for coming. In fact, as I want to say now, all of you, thank you so much for coming and commemorating this very special evening with us. Please be careful on your way down the hill. If anybody or somebody to accompany them with a torch, we have plenty of our stewards around with the yellow fluorescent jackets on, who I'm sure will help you down the hill. Especially at this top end, there's lots of cracks in the soil. But thank you anyway, everybody, for coming.
I'm already over the hill. What do I do?
Thank you so much, everyone. The gates, by the way, close at 10 o'clock, so we have a few time to stay and soak up the atmosphere of this evening. Thank you.
Oh, they didn't break our rules at all. That's not made up. That's actually how the rules are. So we've got quite a few stories.
Have you had any members of the police?
Yeah.
They all know that's there. A lot of them brought this stuff in.
Okay, so we have with us Councillor Alan Davis, who's the Mayor of Basildon, we're very welcome to have her at the exhibition today. What do you think of it, Alan?
Well, walking up and down here, I've seen lots of interesting articles. One of them which stuck out the most to me was William Archer, a man from Pitsea, who was sunk by an American torpedo, unfortunately, and his boat was crossing to a Japanese camp. So that really stuck out to me, that people that lived and grew up in Pitsea, before it was a new town of course, were involved in the war and continued fighting the war after VE Day and during the before VJ Day, so during the Far East conflict. And on that board over there it says that there's 34 members of our community back in the day lost their lives, and I just want to thank everyone involved for putting this on, for Basildon Twinning and Basildon Heritage for putting on this marvellous display for the public. We've got letters handwritten from days of the war, and it's just really interesting. I think everyone needs to look back at the past so they can learn in the future.
Thank you, Alan.
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor Murphy from Basildon Council, and we've come down today to have a look round and see this very impressive presentation put together by the Heritage Group. Obviously this has been done in collaboration with Forget Never, and I can't really say a lot. It's absolutely incredible. You really have to come and see for yourself. It's the easiest way to say it.
Right.
I know the Heritage Group, if you get there, that do sterling work. I'm down at the Heritage Group on a regular basis, and all I can say is more power to Railway for what they're doing for us and of course for the future generations, documenting everything from our area to their future use.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Eddie.
My name is Brian Hughes and I'm president of the Royal British Legion Billericay branch, and I've been president for probably about 20 years now. During the war I lived in Kettering in Northamptonshire and lived opposite a convalescent base for United States Air Force pilots and crew, and I remember as a child seeing the B-17s flying over the house. From the gun ports, a hand would appear as it flew over the house and fire a Very pistol. And the Very pistol was either yellow or red. Yellow denoted injured crew on board, and red denoted bomb on board, which they had not been able to drop. That centre, convalescent centre, was the source for me of Wrigley's chewing gum and all other sorts of chewing gum, Hershey bars and comics, and I developed a love of comics from that point on. When I was 18, I was conscripted into the Royal Artillery and served as a technical assistant Royal Artillery, as a bombardier for a time, and then I had the idea of applying to join military intelligence, and I went to see my CO, told him I could speak fluent Greek, which he believed, and I found myself very quickly in Cyprus and raised to the rank of sergeant, where I was earning more than the lieutenants in the castle. I had incidentally turned down a commission because I didn't want to be involved in any fighting in Korea. But I do have the General Service Medal for my acting in military intelligence and going up into the mountains and trying to find terrorists. After that, I've joined the British Legion because one of my friends from Edinburgh days, Royal Artillery days, was killed by terrorists, and I decided that I would join the British Legion in 1975. So I've been a member of the Royal British Legion since 1975, and we're now in 2025. My experiences of the war and of Japanese, British troops who were prisoners of the Japanese relate to two people. One, Sammy Norris. Now, Sammy Norris was the husband of Joyce Carpenter, my father's secretary. My father was the assistant town clerk of Billericay Urban District Council, and Joyce was his secretary. Sammy, I attended the wedding, and the thing that struck me noticeably was his parchment yellow skin. Sammy never recovered from his days as a Japanese prisoner of war, and he did not live very long. Joyce went on to obtain an MBE, like myself, and she became the secretary to the town manager of Basildon Council. The other person is Bob Hathaway. Now, Bob Hathaway was my dentist, and Bob used to invite me in to sit in his dentist chair, and he would then produce a half-crown out of my ear. I was quite amazed by this, but he turned out to be a conjurer. And when I joined the Billericay Rotary Club in 1968, I got to know Bob very well, and he told me that he had been a prisoner of war in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and that he'd acted as a dentist there, and had produced a set of dentures out of a tin can. And I was absolutely astonished by this, and he said, well, it's actually on display in the Royal Dental College in London. He also told me that the only way he could secure medical supplies for his dentist's work was to go in and entertain the Japanese officers, and he would, for example, produce an egg out of the ear of one of the Japanese officers. They were absolutely enthralled by his performances, and I think that's what helped him survive the war and help his fellow prisoners of war with their dental problems.
That's lovely. Do I understand he was also a great musician?
Yes, Bob did play the accordion.
Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, Bob and I, enough in many musical productions, because he was a member of the Billericay Amateur Operatic Society, as I was, and I can remember Bob acting as jailer in Die Fledermaus when I was also in it as Alfredo, and we got to know each other extremely well. In fact, my late wife was also a friend of Sylvia Hathaway, his wife, because they were both members of the Business and Professional Women's Guild. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much.